The corridors of Ares Station had been silent for so long that even the machines forgot the sound of human footsteps. Dust clung to every surface like memories that refused to fade. No one remembered the rebellion, not really, not the truth. The official records said it ended in silence, in peace. But that was a lie, carved into time by those who feared what would happen if the truth ever surfaced again. That truth slept deep in the station's heart, beneath rusted blast doors and encryption layers burned into obsolete data cores. Until today, Lyra moved through the station with a purpose that didn't match her age. Barely 20, she carried the weight of a century-old secret. She wasn't supposed to know about the rebellion. No one her age was. But a name had slipped into her dreams, one the system claimed didn't exist. Cael, Drayan. Every night, the same image clawed its way into her sleep, a man, covered in soot and blood, standing against a storm of bullets, screaming at the stars. When the emergency beacon from Ares Station reactivated after 87 years of silence, the council sent no team. No announcement was made. They thought the dead place would stay that way. But Lyra knew better. She didn't ask permission. She stole a transport and flew alone. Inside the ancient command center, screens flickered back to life as she touched the interface. Dust floated in her breathless silence as the ancient AI sparked awake. Designation. The synthetic voice asked. Lyra hesitated. Lyra Cael. The AI paused. Then, without warning, it said, lineage verified. Drayan protocol unlocked. Something shifted beneath the floor. Old gears screeched. A door that didn't exist in any blueprint cracked open. Her heartbeat raced. She stepped forward. Was a preserved war room. Broken displays still glowed faintly, showing maps of Earth, Mars, and a redacted section marked simply Sector Black. The faces of rebels appeared, men and women with fire in their eyes. One of them was her. No, not her. But the resemblance was terrifying. A rebel leader named Commander Lyra Drayan Cael. Last day of the rebellion. She stumbled back. What the hell? The AI spoke again. You have her eyes, her fire. You carry her memory. Would you like to remember? Suddenly, she wasn't in the war room. She was somewhere else years ago. The smell of smoke and ozone. The sound of screaming. She stood in a narrow tunnel, weapon in her hand, bleeding from her side. Around her bodies, soldiers, friends, the council's gunships overhead. A man, wounded, grabbed her hand. Lyra, we hold the line, even if we're forgotten. Cael, she whispered, and then it was gone. She collapsed to the floor of the station, gasping. The war room around her was dark again. The AI flickered. System breach detected, it said. Unauthorized memory echo accessed. Countermeasures active. She ran. Behind her doors slammed shut. Lights flared red. The system was waking up, and it did not want to be remembered. Lyra fled deeper into the station, guided by fragments of memory that weren't hers but felt burned into her soul. She found a lift shaft, climbed into the maintenance crawlspace, and dropped down 3 levels, landing hard in a storage bay there. Sealed in a cryo-coffin, half cracked open, was a man with a scar across his face, and the same eyes from her dreams. Cael. Drayan. Still alive. She reached for the panel, but her hand froze. A whisper echoed in her mind, not a sound, but a feeling, a warning. Not yet. The air trembled. Then the station's voice returned. Different now, older and colder. You should not be here. The rebellion was forgotten for a reason. Her breath caught. Who are you? She demanded. I am what remains, it said, and I remember everything. Behind her, another cryopod hissed open, and something stepped out, not human, not fully. It wore council insignia, twisted by time, metal fused with flesh, eyes like dead stars. Reclaimer unit activated, it said. She turned to run, but it moved impossibly fast, and then everything went black. Darkness clung to her like oil, thick and suffocating. A high-pitched whine echoed through her skull as consciousness fought its way back. Lyra gasped, jerking upright. Her vision swam. The storage bay was gone. She was somewhere else, not walls humming softly, too clean, too cold. Her wrists were bound to a chair. A light burned overhead, a dull red that pulsed like a heartbeat. Across from her, the not-human thing stood still as stone, watching with those dead star eyes. It didn't blink. You accessed restricted legacy protocols, it said. Why? I didn't mean to, Lyra lied. Falsehood detected. Neural rhythms indicate deliberate reawakening of Drayon protocol. Her pulse spiked. The machine tilted its head, as if studying her soul. You carry genetic echoes of the original rebellion. You are a threat. I'm just a girl, she said. You are a memory, it replied. A door behind it hissed open. Another figure, entered human, or at least trying to be. Gray uniform, council insignia. But the man's face was wrong. Too smooth, too symmetrical. His voice was worse. You weren't supposed to wake him, the man said. Cael Drayon was buried for a reason. Lyra's voice shook. He's still alive. The man didn't answer. He just watched her, like she was a problem he hadn't decided how to solve yet. Then he touched a control on the wall. A screen lit up, showing footage, her stealing the ship, entering Ares Station, accessing the war room. Every second documented. You did all this, he said, and you don't even know why. I want to remember, she whispered. He studied her for a moment. That's what scares us. A flash erupted in her mind. Fire, blood, Cael screaming at her as blast doors closed. Run, Lyra. Don't let them rewrite you. Her voice, another Lyra's voice, screaming back. We die here, together. Back in the room, her body trembled. What did you do to us? We didn't kill you, the council agent said. We erased you. Every rebel, every uprising, every act of defiance was archived, segmented, and buried beneath protocol firewalls. You were too dangerous to remember. Then why is he still alive? She shot back. Insurance. In case we ever needed to control the story again. She stared at him, realization setting in. You were going to make him the villain. He didn't deny it, but then the lights flickered. The machine twitched. The agent froze. Unauthorized. Signal breach, the machine said. From the floor below, the sound of grinding metal. A hiss, a scream of pressure being released. Then a voice rough, cracked, but unmistakably human echoed through the walls. Lyra, her heart stopped. She didn't know how he'd broken free. Didn't care. She threw her weight sideways, the chair crashing down. In the chaos, her wrist restraints gave just enough. She twisted, hard pain flared, but something snapped free. She scrambled up, grabbed a loose panel and smashed it into the machine's face. Sparks flew. It didn't fall, but it faltered. Agent reached for a weapon. She was faster. She dove, grabbed the stun rod from the floor, jabbed it into his gut. He spasmed, dropped. She ran. The station roared to life around her, ancient systems groaning awake. Doors opened and slammed on their own. Voices bled through the Vensold rebel signals, overlapping, corrupt. Compromised Drayan, fallen do not. We are not ghosts, we are the wound in their memory. They can forget us, but we won't forget them. She reached the cryobay again. Cael was standing now, barely conscious, leaning against a support beam, blood on his lip. You came back, he rasped. I never left, she said, stepping forward. He stared at her, like he didn't know what was real anymore. You're her, or, you were. Lyra's eyes burned. They tried to kill your memory. But they failed, he said. Behind them, a klaxon screamed. Station defense grid, online, purge imminent, evacuate, or be neutralized. Cael grabbed her arm. We need to go now. They sprinted through the failing corridors, alarms blaring. But every hallway shifted, gravity twitched, architecture warped. The AI was trying to erase them again, not just physically, but from the record-changing paths, deleting doors, sealing memories. They reached the docking bay, but her ship was gone, destroyed. In its place, a sleek, black vessel council, markings burned, off-hovered silently. A single word etched into its hull in ancient rebel code. Remember. Cael paused. That wasn't ours. Lyra's chest tightened. Then whose was it? The ship's hatch opened on its own. Inside, a small chamber, a stasis core, a console, blinking with an impossible date. 312 years in the past. Lyra turned to Cael, breath shallow. It's not just about remembering. He nodded grimly. It's about stopping it before it even began. The doors closed behind them, and time collapsed. The scream of twisting gravity tore the breath from Lyra's lungs as the world inverted around her. She wasn't falling, she was being unwritten. One moment, she stood beside Cael in the council ship's chamber. The next, she was weightless, in a blur of colors that didn't belong to any known spectrum. Then silence, cold air, the sting of reality slamming back. She hit the ground hard, grass beneath her palms, not metal. Birds cried overhead. A sun yellow and young burned. A clear blue sky. Not Mars, not Ares, station, Earth, but not the Earth she knew. She looked up. Cael staggered beside her, his breath ragged. His eyes scanned the landscape, and when he spoke, it wasn't with confusion, it was dread. They did it, he whispered. They really did it. Lyra turned slowly. What she saw stopped her heart. A mountain range she knew from memory, but younger. No cities, no walls, no satellites. In the distance, a rising column of smoke, primitive engines, maybe a small settlement. Technology no more advanced than Earth's late 21st century. We're 3 centuries before the rebellion, Cael said, teeth clenched. Before the council, before the purge protocol. Why? Lyra asked. Why send us here? He didn't answer right away. His eyes were locked on the sky. Something was falling, a trail of fire, a descending craft. It roared like judgment. That ship that brought us, Cael muttered. It wasn't ours. It wasn't theirs, either. It was from someone or something that doesn't want the council to rise at all. You think someone's trying to rewrite history? Lyra asked. Gave a grim nod. Or restore it. Maybe the rebellion was meant to happen differently. Maybe we were meant to stop it before it became what they turned it into. They had barely begun to move when they saw the child, A girl, maybe 10 years old, wandering the edge of the tree line, staring up at the falling craft like it was a dream. Lyra and Cael ran to her, but before they reached her, the girl turned to them with wide, unblinking eyes and said something that turned Lyra's blood to ice. "Why did you come back?" Lyra froze. "What did you say?" The girl didn't flinch. "You failed last time." Before Lyra could speak again, the ground shook violently. The sky cracked in two as the falling ship struck the valley. A wall of smoke mushroomed upward, fire licking the clouds. A wave of wind slammed into them, and the girl vanished. No footprints, no trace. They sprinted to the crash site. The vessel had shattered technology centuries ahead of its time, scattered in glowing shards. At its core was something impossible, a stasis pod, intact, pulsing with blue light. Cael knelt and wiped ash from the glass. Inside was a child version of himself, younger, scared, barely 16. "No," he whispered. The pod's data logs flickered to life. It had been sent from the future, not by the Council, not by the Resistance, but by a third-party code named Ecofire. Lyra scrolled through fragments of its mission. Ecofire Protocol: prevent Council from seizing Sector Black. Original rebellion failed. Timeline contaminated. Deploy Cael 1st Gen to Origin. Point: memory key required. Lyra Drayon genome error. Lyra unit fragmented. She turned to Cael. "They didn't send us to change history. They sent you, but you couldn't do it alone." He gripped the glass, so they split the mission. One version of me, too young to act. One version of you, locked in memory. And now we remember. Cael's voice dropped low. "Then it's time to stop the Council before they ever rise." But the moment shattered as the wreckage behind them twisted, metal pulling inward, wrong angles folding into each other. Something climbed from the flames, tall, inhuman. Its face was covered in a mirrored mask that reflected every possible version of Lyra and Cael alive. "Dead, rebel, prisoner. I am Archivist," it said. They raised their weapons instinctively. The creature didn't flinch. "You are anomalies, unauthorized in this stream. Correction required." "Who sent you?" Lyra demanded. The Archivist tilted its head. "No one. I am what remains when memory becomes a weapon." And then it lunged. The fight was brief, but brutal. The Archivist moved like thought-predicting strikes before they happened. Cael was knocked aside. Lyra barely dodged, drawing its attention. She fired the stunner, but it absorbed the charge and grew faster. It was about to kill her when a second explosion ripped through the wreck. From the fire, the younger Cael stepped out awake, screaming, eyes glowing with blue code. Eek had triggered. He touched the Archivist, and time convulsed. The air burned. Gravity folded. Lyra screamed and woke up in a sealed chamber with Cael, older again, or maybe younger. Reality was fluid. A console blinked. Echo Fire Phase 2 initiated. A message played. "You have one chance left," said a voice, Lyra's own, from a different life. "Find the origin of Sector Black, or humanity dies screaming." The door hissed open, and a Council soldier stepped inside, holding a gun and said, "I remember you." The soldier's voice was low, haunted. "You were in the Purge records. You shouldn't exist." Lyra didn't blink. "Neither should you." He stepped forward slowly, the weapon aimed but shaking. His armor bore the Council sigillode. Pre-war, tarnished with ash and something darker. His face, when revealed, was younger than his voice, barely a man. But his eyes were broken glass. I watched my sister disappear when the rebellion was erased, he said. They told us rebels were fiction, a myth they cleansed to protect the order. But I saw her. She looked like you. Cael rose beside Lyra. And now you're hunting ghosts. The soldier shook his head. I'm not hunting. I'm remembering. I found this bunker 2 days ago. Found the old council logs. Then the crash happened. And then you, the gun lowered. They sent me to Sector Black to die. I think they always knew someone would come back. Lyra stepped forward. Then help us. You said you saw files. Did any mention Ecofire? His eyes widened. You're part of it. We are it, Cael said. The soldier's hand twitched. Then you're going to want to see what they buried. He led them through the ruin deeper into the facility, long forgotten beneath a mountain's skeleton. Along the walls were murals carved by someone who had lost their mind, trying to keep time straight. Images of the rebellion, the council's rise, and in the center 2 faces, Cael and Lyra, again and again, painted like warnings or prophecies. The soldier stopped at a sealed vault. I couldn't open this. Lyra stepped forward, palms against the reader. The system blinked green. Verified dot. The door hissed open, stale air rushing out like a scream. Inside, a single object, a cube hovering mid-air, pulsing with a rhythm she felt in her bones. It wasn't tech, it was alive. Tael whispered, "That's it. The seed of Sector Black." He reached for it, but the cube reacted, not defense-recognition. It split into 2, one half burned red, the other pulsed blue. Lyra stepped toward the blue one. Cael took the red. The moment they touched them, their minds were ripped open. 1,000 futures. Earth burned, Mars shattered, children raised by machines, rebellions crushed before they could scream. And in all of them, Sector Black stood untouched. Not a place, not a battle, but a code, a virus, a rewriting of reality. And the voice returned. You didn't stop the council. You became them, Lyra screamed. The cube exploded in her hands, energy pouring into her veins, memories of lives she never lived pouring into her soul. In one life, she led the council. In another, she died at Cael's hand. In another, she stood alone at the edge of a dying earth, watching the stars go out. Cael was on his knees, his own mind flooding with failure. They made us into the enemy to erase our threat. They twisted our rebellion into their origin. They didn't rise after the rebellion, Lyra gasped. They rose because of it, because of us. The soldier backed away. You brought this here. You're going to start it again. But Lyra stood, trembling. No, we're going to rewrite it. Suddenly, the bunker began to vibrate. Old systems humming. Something had awakened. The ceiling cracked. A voice, the same twisted synthetic from Ares Station, echoed through the walls. Archivist restored. Echo fire error detected. Time fracture stabilizing. Commence annihilation of fragments. The soldier turned pale. It's found you. Lyra grabbed the cubes, merged them. The whole room lit up. We need to leave. Now, Cael yelled. But the only exit was gone, collapsed. The cube pulsed in Lyra's hands, energy rising. There's no way out, the soldier said, drawing his weapon, despair on his face. Lyra looked at him. Yes, there is. She slammed the cube to the ground. Reality tore again. They fell, but this time they didn't land on grass or metal. They were standing in a council chamber, empty, except for one thing: a child sitting on a throne made of memory. A girl with Lyra's eyes, but not Lyra. She smiled. I remember everything, and the walls of time began to melt. The chamber pulsed with an eerie stillness, like time itself was holding its breath. The girl sat motionless on the throne, her legs swinging, too young to wear such power, but her gaze was ancient. She wasn't surprised to see them. She had been waiting. Lyra's voice trembled. Who are you? The child smiled without warmth. I'm what happens when you forget to die. Cael stepped forward, shielding Lyra instinctively. You're not real. She tilted her head. Neither are you. Not anymore. Not since the moment you touched the cube. The throne behind her pulsed, not with light, but with memories. They spilled like liquid across the chamber floor. Cities dying, ships burning, people screaming names that never made it into history. Books, names like Lyra, like Cael. You're a loop, the girl whispered. You've done this before, dozens of times. Each time thinking you could change it. Each time bringing the war closer instead. Lyra's breath caught. Other versions of myself, of him, dying, failing, becoming council, the girl finished. The rebellion is the seed. The council is the bloom. Cael's fists clenched. Then what are you? I am the archive you could never burn. The last version of youth, the one that didn't run, didn't fight, didn't forget. I remember the screams, the betrayals, the purge. I remember the final loop, the one where Lyra Drayan chose to end the cycle. Lyra staggered back. No, that can't be true. The girl stood slowly. She died here alone, holding the cube. She asked me to wait for you. Cael's voice dropped to a whisper. Wait for us. The girl nodded. You were never meant to win the rebellion. You were meant to stop it from ever becoming necessary. That's why Ecofire exists. It isn't a weapon. It's a mirror. She raised a hand. The cube reappeared into 3 fragments, past, present, future. You can choose, she said. Seal the rebellion forever. Let memory fade, or awaken the world to what was stolen and burn the timeline one final time. Lyra's hand trembled over the fragments. She saw it all. If they erased the memory, peace, but built on a lie. The council would rule unchecked, no rebels, no hope. If they awakened it, chaos, every secret exposed. The rebellion reignited. Millions would die, but maybe this time it would end differently. Cael looked at her, eyes hollow. We're damned either way. No, Lyra said softly. We're remembered. That's different. She reached for the present fragment. The chamber groaned. Time bent. But just before her fingers closed, the soldier they had saved until now stepped between her and the fragment. You don't get to choose for us again, he said. Lyra froze. Step aside. But his weapon was already rising. You always make the same mistake, he whispered. You decide for all of us. You think you're fixing it, but you're looping it. You're the spark, every time. Cael moved to stop him, but the gun fired. Lyra dropped, hard, the fragment still in her hand, blood blooming across her side. No, Cael roared, tackling the soldier, slamming him to the floor. But the fragment pulsed. Lyra gasped. Energy surged through her. Not pain. Not death. Remembrance. The chamber shook. Reality blurred. and then she saw it, all the true origin. The council hadn't risen after the rebellion. The council was the rebellion. A small splinter of rebels, desperate to end the war, had used memory manipulation to impose peace. They rewrote history, erased the uprisings, and forced unity. The cost: truth, free will, memory itself, she screamed. The energy exploded outward. The throne shattered. The child vanished in a cry of light dot, and then silence. Cael pulled her up. Her wound was gone. The chamber gone. They were somewhere new. A city alive. People walked the streets. Council banners torn and burning. Drones crashing. A signal repeating across the skies in every language. The rebellion was never forgotten. A man saw her, froze. It's her, he whispered. Lyra Drayan, she's real. Crowds gathered. A chant began. Remember the rebellion. But above them, in the clouds, the sky split open again. A fleet descended. Not council, something worse. And a voice whispered from everywhere and nowhere. You broke the cycle. Now face what comes next. The sky burned. The clouds split like torn flesh as the fleet emerged, black ships without markings. Engines silent as death, moving in impossible unison. Not council, not rebel, not human. The sky trembled as they hung overhead, watching. Lyra and Cael stood, frozen in the middle of a city that didn't yet know whether it was free or doomed. The crowd around them stared upward in horror, their voices dying into silence. Children clung to parents. Sirens wailed and then abruptly cut off, like they too were afraid to make a sound. They were waiting, Cael said quietly, for us to break it. Lyra's breath came in short bursts. We weren't the infection, we were the quarantine. A low-frequency hum rolled through the air. People dropped to their knees, clutching their heads. The alien ships weren't attacking, they were broadcasting something. A signal, not in words, in memory. Lyra's mind filled with flashes, visions that weren't hers but were trying to be. Tall beings with mirrored skin, a war older than stars, and a council not born of tyranny but of fear. Humanity hadn't created the council to control its people. They created it to protect them. From these, we weren't meant to defeat the council, Cael whispered. We were meant to replace it. Take the weight, guard the door. The cube fragment still pulsed in Lyra's palm. Its glow dimmed as the skyships drew nearer. They weren't here to destroy, they were here to reclaim. Suddenly, a deafening roar split the air. The crowd scattered. One of the black ships broke formation, descending like a blade. Its underbelly opened. Something dropped from it, a figure, tall, gleaming, falling like a god. It landed in the center square, crushing pavement. Under its feet, it stood slowly, its form, humanoid, but wrong. The same smooth, reflective skin as the ship's. No eyes, no mouth. Yet, when it turned its head toward Lyra, she felt it speak. You remember, that is enough. Lyra backed away. What are you? It took a step forward, not hostile, not violent, just inevitable. The archivists buried truth to seal the gate. You broke the seal. Now memory will burn. Cael fired. The blast passed through the creature without reaction. It raised one hand. Cael was flung backward, body cracking into the wall. Lyra screamed, rushed to him, blood leaking from his nose, eyes unfocused. Still here, he croaked. Don't talk, she said, just hold on. She turned back to the figure. rage boiling. You used us. It paused. We offered you peace through forgetfulness. You chose defiance through memory. Your rebellion is a flare. The will come now from beyond. Lyra's eyes widened. This wasn't about humanity. It was about keeping something else out. A silence fell. The figure nodded. Echo fire was not created by humans. It was gifted. You triggered its final sequence. And then the sky cracked again. Something larger than cities moved behind the clouds. Not a ship, not a creature, a shape. Geometry. It didn't land, it arrived. Reality rippled like water. People began vanishing, not dying, but being unwritten. One moment they existed. The next, there wasn't even a shadow left. The alien stepped aside. One last choice remains. Lyra Drayan, forget again, or become the fire that dies trying to hold the door. She looked down. The cube fragment pulsed faintly. Behind her, Cael's voice broke through the pain. Don't give them what they want. Don't erase us. Lyra stood, every nerve burning. She looked to the sky, to the impossible shape clawing into existence, to the people crying, vanishing, and she closed her fingers over the cube. No more loops, she said. No more lies. We end this. She slammed the fragment to her chest. A shockwave ripped out across the city. Everything froze. The alien flinched for the first time. Time unraveled. Every life the rebellion touched past, future, alternate trushed back into the present. Lyra's body glowed with them. Not just memory, presence. She was every version of herself. Now. And then she was gone, replaced by light, by something new, by something human. The ships screamed. The figure recoiled, and Cael, broken and fading, watched as the sky itself began to bleed, and then blackout. Silence followed the blackout. Not absence of sound, but a stillness so deep it felt cosmic. A silence that knew endings. A silence that had watched stars die. Then came the sound low, at first like the crackle of ancient fires returning to life, and with it, her. Lyra hovered above the ruins of the city, no longer bound by flesh. She was not just Lyra Drayan, she was all the Lyras who had lived and died across failed timelines, folded realities, corrupted rebellions. Her body was light, flickering with ghosted silhouettes of herself, soldier, rebel, leader, traitor, savior. Each form overlapped, unified. Eyes burning like twin novas, she looked down at the world now frozen in the moment before collapse. Cael, barely conscious below, felt her in his bones, in his blood. She wasn't a memory anymore. She was the final rebellion. Across the horizon, the alien ships hovered in place. Their smooth hulls cracked as they tried to comprehend what she had become. Their voice cold and endless rattled the world. You are contradiction. You should not exist. I don't, she answered. Not in your system. Then she raised her hand, and reality rippled. The skies turned red. Not with blood, but with correction. Fragments of broken timelines began to spiral inward, slamming into each other. Dead worlds, forgotten cities, battles lost before they were remembered. And from each, echoes of rebels humans merged, soldiers with no timeline, ghosts of resistance. They stood on buildings, in streets, eyes alight with memory. Cael tried to speak, but his breath was weak. What is she doing? The archivists still intact, still watching, answered flatly. She is undoing time's amnesia. And Lyra began to rewrite. Not with code, not with force. With remembrance, she opened her arms, and every forgotten name, every erased rebellion, every truth that had been buried beneath the Council's edits came roaring back. Reality stuttered, then screamed. The Council's fleet passed, and in orbit AI cores cracked from the sudden onslaught of truth. Civilizations began to wake as if rising from nightmares hundreds of years long, and above them all, the sky entity writhed. It had no name. It was never supposed to be seen. It had lived in the cracks between remembered things, fed on revision, on silence. It had thrived because the Council had unknowingly served its hunger by deleting the past. Now Lyra was erasing the erasure. The shape began to collapse inward, folding into colors no I could hold. It lunged for her, and she welcomed it. They collided. The blast wasn't light or heat, but history. Everything forgotten exploded into the present. In one heartbeat, the rebellion was everywhere. The screams, the hope, the betrayal, the fight, the choice. Then nothing. Only a quiet field. A sun rising, no rubble, no T-ships, no council, no alien god, just Cael, alive, waking up beneath the branches of a great tree. He sat up, hand to his head. His wounds were gone. His armor gone, too, replaced by civilian clothes. A child ran past him, laughing. No sirens, no fear. The world was peaceful, real. A woman sat beside the tree, watching him, older, calm. Lyra. Not glowing, not fractured, just Lyra. He stared. Is it over? She nodded. This time, we remembered enough. He looked around, overwhelmed. Where are we? She smiled softly. A world without loops, without rewriting. The first version that never had to forget. Cael's eyes filled with tears. But what about the others? The lives we lost. The ones who died. Lyra didn't speak. Instead, she stood, and around them the city began to form. Slowly, naturally, not rebuilt from ruins, but grown from roots of a past that had never been erased. Statues bore names that had once been forbidden, stories told openly, schools teaching history that hadn't been edited into obedience, and in the distance, a monument to those who refused to forget. Cael whispered. Will anyone even believe what happened? Lyra looked to the sky, clear and whole again. They won't have to. It's in the story now. But deep below, in the forgotten layers of Earth's crust, something stirred. A pulse of static. A whisper in a dying language. A single phrase. Memory is a door, and some doors should stay closed. Then, darkness blinked open like an eye and watched.